Good evening, everyone. I'm Connie Gonzalez, Director of Strategy and Community Relations at Brooks. Welcome to our third and final installment of our Ask Brooks series. The Ask Brooks series is bringing the community together and our leaders together to answer your questions. And so for the next hour, we'll be taking your questions regarding coronavirus and small businesses. Tonight, we're bringing together our partners, Mr. El Arreola. He is the President and CEO of the South San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, El, for joining us.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you for having me, Connie. It's a pleasure to be here today.
And we also have Michele Boggs. She is the Executive Vice President of Business Development for the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. Michele, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And facilitating today's conversation is our very own Brooks Chairman of the Board of Directors, Mr. Jim Campbell, who will be moderating our conversation. Mr. Chairman, thank you for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Jim Campbell was appointed to the Brooks Board of Directors in October 2017, and he's been with us ever since. He's very active in our community, and in addition to serving as the Brooks Chairman, which we do keep him very busy with, he also serves as the Vice Chairman of the San Antonio River Authority and on the Executive Committee of the San Antonio Mobility Coalition. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know how to effectively participate in today's event. At any time, you can submit your questions to our speakers. So to do so, just type your questions into this live stream, and as time allows, we will do our best to address as many questions live as we can. We will be recording this, and we'll be sure to share the link after the event. In addition, if you have friends or family members that were interested in today's topic and were not able to tune in, please be sure to tell them that this will also be airing on the City of San Antonio's television station, TVSA, on Sunday at 7 p.m. So now that we've gotten a few housekeeping items out of the way, I'm going to hand it over to our Chairman of the Board, Mr. Jim Campbell.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of our Facebook friends who are joining us tonight. At Brooks, we take small business very seriously. We have a good mix at Brooks of large and small businesses, but small businesses have always been the lifeblood of our community, both on our campus and off our campus. And so we wanted to take this time to focus on the stress in particular that small businesses are under during the pandemic, and also explore any way that we can be supportive of our small businesses in our community. So I think we are going to see some resources that we're going to flash up on the screen. Places you can go, like the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. We have a representative with us tonight from that fine organization, UTSA, and last but certainly not least, Workforce Solutions Alamo. So Connie introduced them briefly before, but let me reiterate that tonight we have a couple of great resources from our community who know economic development and know small businesses. One is Al Arreola, who is the President and CEO of the South Chamber. And the other one is Michele Boggs, who's the Executive Vice President for Business Development at the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. We have a number of pre-submitted questions, and in the interest of time, let's jump right in. So both of you are in touch with the community and with the small business community. But let me start with Al and say, what is it you're seeing and hearing out there, Al, in the small business community?
From the beginning of the pandemic, we saw a lot of our small businesses make some clever adjustments to try and keep their bottom line slim and try to keep afloat. I've seen a big resiliency on the part of a lot of our small businesses. Some of our bigger businesses are doing just fine. Where there's cause for concern is there was a good scene developing, especially kind of in the bar nightlife scene, that they have taken the hugest hit, that they've just been completely forced to close and been limited resources and tools for that particular industry. But through and through the rest, we've been monitoring policies and trying our best to keep businesses afloat. I know we're going to get into some of those topics with some of the other questions, but the fighting spirit of the South Side is real, and we've been doing it for 300 years. And so you're going to keep seeing us do what we do.
I like that, the fighting spirit of the South Side. I agree. So Michele, can you put, I guess, some meat and bones on this. Are there examples of small businesses that you've seen that have pivoted or been particularly resilient in the face of this pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. I always say I think San Antonio has some of the most scrappy, passionate people you'll ever find, and our business owners are no different. Where possible, they have been pivoting and doing what's necessary to stay afloat. We have a lot of our manufacturers have started manufacturing PPE or protective equipment. Some real examples are Hemley Plastics. They are manufacturing face shields. We have Frank's Manufacturing, who does all the plexiglass work that like you'll see at HEB when you go check out. CBI Group, who typically will manufacture furniture, and now they're doing face masks. We have Dixie Flag, who's doing face masks. But not only that, even our larger companies, our more dense, large office users have had to pivot. And, as everyone's working from home these days. Big companies like USAA and BD and Medtronic, all those folks went from a work from home model. And, we were kind of trending that way anyway. Companies were starting to do that. And I think this has accelerated it. What they're finding is, their employees are very productive at home and it's working out. So they've shifted that way and are there for the unforeseeable future, and it's working out. So we'll see a big change in how dense office users do business. But it's been interesting. And like I said before, I think a lot of these companies are making it work.
So, Michele, let me stay with you for a second. I know the Economic Development Foundation focuses on both large and small businesses, attracting new businesses, but then expanding existing businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about the resources that are available at the Economic Development Foundation for small businesses in particular? Sure,
you bet. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to back up a little bit for those folks who don't know or not familiar with the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. What we're sort of known for is recruiting new companies into San Antonio. And we've done a good job of that in the past and had some great success. And that's always been our main focus. But what a lot of people don't know is we have a very robust business retention and expansion program. And what that means basically is we're taking care of our local businesses, making sure that we understand what they're doing, what their needs are. And if there are pain points, we want to know about it. And what we do is within our target industries, we aggregate those needs and we aggregate those up to policymakers at the city, the county, and in some instances, the state. So we're trying to constantly create a business environment that makes our target industry companies successful and that they can stay here and grow. So since COVID, we've had to pivot a little bit, Our focus now is local companies and making sure that we're helping them through the recovery. So we've enhanced our business retention and expansion program. We've enhanced it to include our community partners so that we're extending our reach in the community and reaching more companies. We've also enhanced it to include workforce development. We have a workforce development arm called SA Works. And so there's a lot of upskilling and retraining of folks out there, but that does you no good if you don't know where to send those folks. Who's hiring? So EDF has been charged with, going out and talking to local companies and finding out who's hiring and matching those up with the folks who have been displaced. We have about 150,000 unemployment claims right now. So those folks are looking for work. They need work. And we really feel like this is a great opportunity to upskill and reskill them and connect them with companies that are hiring. And we're doing this with our community partners, Workforce Solutions Alamo.
Great. Thank you, Michele. So Al, I know the South Chamber has a pretty broad reach. You are into a lot of different things, but what in particular is your focus related to small business?
I mean, that is what we do. The business of a chamber is to represent small businesses. And so we're grateful for our member partners. we are a vehicle for what they are, their tools, what they need, and what we're trying to advocate for. Kind of echoing what Michele said at the local, state, and federal level. Again, I know a lot of these questions will be chiming in on what we've been doing specifically, but that's the business of the chamber, is to be to represent small businesses. I can say proudly that we still are gaining new members throughout this pandemic. I think small businesses are seeing us as a resource. Our reach is significant. We do try our best to be a megaphone. We're, if you will, the cheerleaders on the sideline, pushing these players on the field, and so that's what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it.
Well, you're a good cheerleader for the South Side. I know that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So let's shift gears just a little bit here. We're going to have a video question that was submitted by one of our small business owners on the Brooks campus. This question comes from Linda Lazo, who owns and operates Linda's De Novo Hair Design, which is in our Embassy Suites Hotel on the Brooks campus. And so let's hear what Linda has to say.
As the economy slowly reopens, what are the key changes a small business will need to make to succeed?
Okay, did we get that? Okay. Who wants to respond?
I don't mind. Linda cuts my hair. I could give her this conversation when I go visit her. No, I mean, to what our points were earlier, the scrappiness of some of these businesses, that they pivoted, they adjusted, whether it was a big or small business. You know, on the South Side, unfortunately, a lot of our jobs aren't work from home type of opportunities. Again, slowly but surely, we're developing more of those work opportunities. But a lot of this is folks putting things together, assembly lines, chains, folks having to literally work in tandem. And so, you know, this has been proven difficult, but again, people have been our businesses have made the necessary adjustments, not only in the interest of the consumer, but especially for their employees, to keep folks safe. And so, you know, you saw the wheels keep churning as best they could. July seemed like it was the hardest month on all of us, but I think we're slowly but surely coming out of this.
Great. Michele, you mentioned earlier one of the small businesses that has pivoted and is producing PPE. Do you know where small businesses could get PPE if they're in need?
Sure. Yeah. A few months back, the city did a citywide handout of PPE. They did PPE and hand sanitizer. And so I know that they still have some left and it is available. So if you reach out to the city, they do have some available for small businesses.
Okay. So Al, I think a common problem with small businesses, a challenge, maybe an opportunity, is finances and how they finance and sustain their businesses. Obviously, that's really been the main problem for our small businesses, has been the financial crunch. If you're a small business owner and you need help, where do you go? Who do you reach out to?
Your Chamber of Commerce once again, but no, I mean, without being plugging the chamber per se, where we've been conscious of this, and you saw it throughout the pandemic, there was opportunities for grants and loans through the government, but a lot of that you really had to have a lot of your paperwork in order. And so there was seminars throughout the years that we've been trying to really get our folks acclimated with just the proper documentation necessary, how important it is to show a profit. Believe it or not, a lot of small businesses try to minimize that, and they don't realize that that's going to affect their opportunity to gain more loans or more access to capital. And so, you know, just basic financial literacy and getting folks more acclimated with how they can continue to succeed and grow is the name of our game as well. We're going to be launching a series called The Toolbox, and so look out for that. We already have a podcast. It's called The Business, and we're just talking to small businesses. What I've found very interesting, and I know we're going to get into this later, I've seen a few start during this pandemic. And so you would assume, you know, that would be a difficult task, but it's happening. It's happening now.
Okay, great. Thank you. So don't be shy. We do have some financial institutions on the South Side.
Well, sure. I was going to bring up banks as well. Are a lot of, especially joining your chamber too. Many of these banks support our chambers for this specific reason. Is we develop these type of programs and in partnership with them specifically. And so you can pick the bank of your choice by all means, but they're ready to help you.
Yeah, I attend South Chamber events, and the banks, the local financial institutions, are always well represented, and including credit unions,
Yes, sir.
which we have a brand new one that's going to move on campus at Brooks any day now. So we're proud of that as well. So Michele, in the circumstance where a small business owner has adapted and is actually doing well at this point, and needs to expand, we hear about an awful lot of folks being out of work, but it may not be that easy to connect those out of work folks with the small businesses that might be hiring. How do you go about doing that if you're a small business owner? Where do you go? What's the most efficient way to find those workers?
Sure. All the traditional.
I think we lost Michele. What was the question, Jim? I'll take it. I'll field it for now.
Over to you, Al. So if one of your small businesses, was doing particularly well and actually was going to expand and looking for employees, what's sort of the best way to do that? Where do you go?
Alamo Workforce is a great tool. The Texas Workforce Commission is a great tool. City Hall is a great tool. Just to government partners. I think we got Michele back if she remembers that.
I can answer that now. I don't know what happened.
I'm sure she's going to repeat some of what I said.
Well, welcome back, Michele.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. Usually okay. I can blame it on my toddler, but that's not the case.
Got it.
So we were talking about connecting employers with workforce, right?
Correct. Yes.
So again, all the traditional ways are still out there, but there are some great programs right now that benefit the companies. So for example, the city is funding some on-the-job training resources. So someone that's on unemployment and is registered with Workforce Solutions Alamo can receive a stipend to get trained. So if a company's looking for someone, please contact me and I can connect you to this program. But basically, you receive an employee after you interview them, and the background check's done by WSA. You receive an employee that you can train for free for up to 12 weeks. And the employee will receive a stipend, about $450 a week, I believe, from the city, so that they're not hurting during that period. The employee is still an employee of Workforce Solutions Alamo, so there is no risk to the employer. And so at the end of that 12 weeks, if it worked out and they did a great job, then they have the opportunity to hire them on. So it's a great resource. So if you're a company looking for workers, please give the Economic Development Foundation a call, and we would be happy to connect you with this program.
So an important related piece to that is this whole notion of upskilling, I guess, and retraining workers. I don't want to get, the cart in front of the horse here or get too political, but it looks like we've got a ballot initiative coming in November, which is related to a 1/8 cent sales tax that would be dedicated largely to job training and upskilling and things of that nature. Can either one of you sort of enlighten us about what that may look like and how you're feeling about that? I mean, I know we're very early in the game and we really haven't even seen any political ads or anything, but it's going to be here pretty quickly.
With the campaigns coming in the midst of the pandemic, obviously the priority was to keep folks safe. And so, a lot of these policy discussions have not really made it to the light of day. I think that we do need to engage the public more on why these initiatives are going to be important. And whichever side of the aisle they end up choosing, so to speak, on the vote, it's important that they're acclimated with the proper information.
Sounds good. Michelle, any observations on?
Yeah, I would add to that a little bit. Because of all the upskilling and reskilling that's already happening and the programs they have in place, I think both city and county are both in a great place to continue the programs that they have implemented now. And we'll learn what went well and what didn't work. And with that program specifically, I think they'll just build on that and make it better. So I think it's a great thing.
That sounds good. So in the last several months, we've had various kinds of recovery grants and assistance from the federal government. If a small business didn't get in on that, I mean, is there sort of an alternative, or is there another option coming, or what should a small business owner do? And I'll let either one of you jump in.
Go ahead, Al.
The Senate today, I think, had to revisit another package that Congress was trying to put together. I know we have questions related to the CARES Act later, but I think these programs, they moved very fast when things in government haven't moved fast, and so we got to give kudos to our federal leaders for trying their best to give resources to state and local levels, which did trickle down, and you're seeing some of these programs take fruition. If you didn't get access to grants or loans through the government, I stay in the fight and try and get a loan through an institution. Again, get your documents in order. What aren't in order, visit with a CPA or just visit with us at the chamber, and we can lead you into the right contacts that maybe aren't necessarily a service you have to pay for. And so stay in the fight. Loans are still available through institutions, and again, just stay mindful that programs are continuing to be discussed, and hopefully we can develop more for businesses that are hurting.
I could just add on to that a little bit and talk about a wonderful program that's available, no charge for companies. UTSA stood up what they're calling their COVID recovery accelerator. And like I said, this is no charge to the companies, and they have access to business advisors for counseling. So they can connect folks to funding that's out there available. Even if it is getting them just to a banker, and I don't mean just to a banker, but even if it's getting them to a banker, they will help the company with all their pre-bank. We call it get pre-bank ready. So, a lot of companies haven't been thinking this way, and suddenly they have to get their finances in order, and they might not have a line of credit with their local banker. So this is a wonderful resource to help you get ready to apply for some sort of loan. And then there's also the economic injury disaster loan is still out there and available, and they can help you apply for that as well. So again, UTSA's COVID recovery accelerator is a wonderful resource. And I think we had that flashed up earlier on the screen.
We did. So it sounds like maybe a more focused version of the Small Business Development Center that they've had.
It's in their Small Business Development Center. Yes, sir. Yeah. So
both of those resources, the Small Business Development Center on an ongoing basis when we get through this pandemic. This one is specifically focused on
That's right. That's right. And the great thing about it is they're providing the counseling, but they're not just handing you off to another institution. They're going to stay with you after and make sure that you know how to, if you do receive, for example, if you receive the PPP money, a lot of companies, never received that much money at one time. And so they help them deal with that. And so they'll help them all through the recovery phase as well.
Right. So we just flashed that back up. Thank you for that. And Al, you mentioned the CARES Act earlier. I mean, can you explain that? I mean, I think at the time I understood what was going on, and now I've forgotten. It's been a few months.
Sure.
But there are people out there, I'm sure, who would like to hear, kind of a basic explanation of what was involved in the CARES Act.
Sure. I mean, in the CARES selected, I always forget what that full acronym is, but to context, again, it was the federal government's attempt to infuse some finances to not only businesses, but the folks alike that have been affected in this economy. So, you saw some unemployment benefits that were tailored into that as well. Some have phased out, and certainly that has had an effect on the economy. But there was so many. This virus touched so many levels of our, whether you're talking about housing as well. Again, the private sector businesses, folks on an individual basis, and the stipends they got. So it was, to best I can say, like I said, like I acknowledged earlier, best attempt that our federal leaders at that time felt to keep the economy going, because it was not fun in April. March certainly wasn't, and April wasn't either. So, like I said, hopefully another package will be that much more strategic. But that package did give a lot of autonomy to the state and local levels on how they choose to spend those funds. And some of it translated to some, like we mentioned, the PPE giveaways at the local level, at the county level. Bexar County, kudos to them with working with Lift Fund to be one of the first in the state to do the small business micro program. Is it everyone being awarded this? Likely not, but again, it's available, and hopefully with some of these businesses, it's a tool that they can use.
I can help break that down a little bit more on the local level.
Please.
As everyone knows, back in March, this is when the CARES Act was passed. I believe it was something around $2 trillion to get the economy re-stimulated. And, it was focused on not only individuals, but businesses and government organizations. And so locally, like Al mentioned, Bexar County received CARES Act money, and they're using that. They had some grants that they issued through Lift Fund, and that was very successful. They helped a whole lot of companies with that. And now they're using some money to do some job upskilling and reskilling. The city has used the money for several different programs. They have grants out for small businesses and what they're calling micro businesses. I believe they had close to 3,000 applicants that they're still working through on that. They have a micro business outreach program where the goal is to reach thousands of companies that typically are not in touch with these kind of things. As Al mentioned, they had the big PPE and hand sanitizer handout for small businesses and nonprofits. They have an on-the-job training program that I mentioned earlier, and they had grants for artists and art organizations that are nonprofits. So they're doing a lot locally to help it. I mean, we need to be so proud of our community, Bexar County and the city. They've been hustling to help out our small businesses. And so I've been very proud to be a part of that.
Great. Thank you very much for doing that. So we have a live question from the audience, and I think this one is for you, Al. In particular, what is the South Chamber doing to promote the idea of buying South Side, especially, in very challenging times?
On the onset of the pandemic, we developed a campaign immediately that's called Stay Safe, Show Love, Shop South. We put it into signs. We did a digital campaign as well. And the basic message was what you see is happening now was, again, stay safe, give physical space, wear a mask, stay safe, show love, wear a mask, go shop at a local company and shop South. Show love by shopping South. And so a lot of those words were deliberately integrated to just have a basic message of our businesses need us, and obviously we need to frequent those businesses. And so we're going to continue with that campaign even after the pandemic. Hopefully we can downplay the whole stay safe, but staying safe is a good thing. And I know our businesses are working hard to keep their consumers and their customers safe as well.
So you mentioned, the safety factor, which is really important. And I know people are at all different points on the spectrum. A lot of folks are back in restaurants, for instance, on a safely spaced basis. But for people who are hesitant about that, they can also, do takeout at our Southside restaurants and things of that nature, correct?
Correct. Oh, what we even did we went as far as to partner with some of our small businesses. I'll give you an example with Deco Pizzeria, which is soon to open at Brooks, and we're excited about that. But with using their close to downtown location, folks were able to order online at our website at southsa.org, order a do-it-yourself pizza kit. Then we had a webinar tied to that. And so not only were we able to support small business, they also gave us a small piece of the proceeds to the chamber, because again, we are a nonprofit organization as well, and we needed money throughout COVID also to sustain our staff and our operations as well. And so we're grateful to members like that, and we're going to continue to work hard. We're still doing promotions like that right now. We currently have one with Done Right Barbecue, which is a new small businesses on the South Side. So again, this is what we do at the Chamber of Commerce, and we're going to keep doing that.
So Michele, on this topic, you probably have heard of some instances, that might be interesting along these lines about, promoting small businesses. It doesn't have to be just on the South Side. Brooks' mission is on our campus, but it's also beyond our campus. And we're interested to know about, success stories that are going on around the community.
Yeah, I mentioned a couple of companies earlier. So many of our companies, especially our manufacturers, have pivoted to start manufacturing protective equipment. And they started doing that early on. And so again, I know I already said this and it sounds cheesy, but I'm just super proud of how our community has, especially our business community and our small companies, have reacted to this pandemic. And so, a lot of them are now producing the protective equipment and, just pivoting and doing what they have to do to make it work.
Well, you mentioned Dixie Flag before, and I remember when they, announced that they were going to start making masks. I thought, how perfect! There are a lot of fans out there of Dixie Flag, and what a great thing for them to do. So I think you both mentioned the Lift Fund at some point, and perhaps Michele, you could tell us a little bit more about Lift Fund for those of us who are not that familiar with what their mission is.
Yeah, you bet. They're a great organization. Lift Fund provides small business loans. They're specially tapped into all the monies or loans that are out there available through the CARES Act. They also provide some business counseling. So they're a great resource for any small business. They've partnered with both the city and the county. I know that the county ran their grants through Lift Fund. And so they are just such a great community partner, well trusted within the community. So any business that is looking for relief right now, I would definitely suggest reaching out to Lift Fund.
So one of the things that we focus on at Brooks, and I think do quite well, Connie, who we heard from earlier, is actually responsible for this, is marketing. And not just small businesses, but large businesses. We put a lot of effort into marketing. For instance, the Embassy Suites Hotel. We just talked about Linda's Place inside the hotel. If you're a small business and you'd like to up your game a little bit in the marketing arena, how do you get started? Where do you go? How does that work? Al, maybe you can take that one.
You already know what I'm going to say, Jim. I'll let Michele answer this one first.
That can't be the answer to every question now.
I mean, we certainly are, though, that tool. And we also have made our membership fees very low. And we also make them to where you can pay them monthly. I'll be frank with you, even throughout the pandemic, we were waiving dues as well. We were here to serve not only our members, but small businesses alike that we wanted to see grow and continue to stay afloat. To be told, a lot of folks, the reason why I feel the need to megaphone for the chamber sometimes too is sometimes we are viewed as an extension of government where we're not. We are a nonprofit organization that has a very specific mission to protect the interests and advocate for businesses specifically. And so that's why I would suggest starting with us. A lot of folks have different goals associated. Why would they even join a chamber? But one of the biggest ones is marketing. And on the South Side, word of mouth is a big deal. It's as big as print. I think we're learning to get into the digital space. A lot of us are. A shout out to a lot of folks, small businesses that I'm seeing do that too. That they're putting their message out there about how positive they are and excited they are about their business being on the South Side. And so the more you see that, the more it's just going to continue to get contagious.
And I would think, knowing the South Chamber. Being a member also allows you to do a lot of networking,
right?
Which obviously can promote your business. if a small business owner needs specific help promoting just their business, however, I assume maybe you have members that are in marketing now?
100% in those spaces too, and that, again, that is hopefully what we could hope for, is that you're able to connect to other members. We do see that happen a lot, not only with business to business context, but I'll give you an example. This morning we had our networking breakfast at Don Pedro's, a humble crowd that showed up, but we our presenter was Alamo Area Councils of Government. They were bringing up a transportation program that they're working on for elderly folks. We had a representative from VIA in the room. I was able to see the interaction where they were basically figuring out a way to collaborate on that and make it efficient for both agencies. And so for that to happen in our space, it shows what we're capable of doing with when folks can collaborate and get together.
Great. Michele, anything on marketing? I know we've talked about several resources, the UTSA and the Small Business Development Center, and I'm assuming all of those probably have some resources related to marketing.
Yeah. Well, like Al mentioned, and now I'm sorry, but I'm going to mention some other chambers as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier, the city's working with 4 different specific geographies, and they have chambers in those areas. First of all, we have SAGE, Southside First, Westside Development Corporation, and Centro. And they are actively reaching out to companies trying to see where they need help. And that's one of the tools in their toolbox that they can point them in the right direction there.
Yeah, great. Thanks for reminding me of that. I had not thought about those particular groups, but they do have a lot of resources as well. Speaking of resources, or maybe a lack thereof, one of the realities of some small businesses, probably too many, is that they work on pretty narrow margins, and there's not a lot of resources set aside for a rainy day, or in particular for a pandemic. And I would imagine there are probably a number of small businesses out there right now who may be having a hard time paying their rent if they're leasing space or something of that nature. If that is the case, Michele, where can somebody go to get assistance specifically related to paying rent?
Sure. Well, I would suggest reaching out to your local banker. But like I mentioned before, I really think that UTSA has a great program, and they will be able to find some funds for you. It's overwhelming to think of all the resources out there when you're a business owner, and that's not your day job, right? So if you're connected with someone like UTSA and they're offering these services for free, they can put all those resources in front of you, help you apply for it, and walk you through it all. And not only that, they're going to hold your hand after and make sure that you're successful. So I would reach out to UTSA. Small business.
Sounds good. We have another question live from the audience, and this questioner actually wants to hear a little bit more about any particular businesses that are persevering through the crisis, and sort of proving the point that you can pivot and be successful. Quote unquote, Southside Ganas, Al, comes to mind. So can you share with us any examples so that we can be inspired by what other folks are doing?
I mentioned our podcast, The Business. One of the folks we interviewed was Mike Serino from Dos Serino's Brewery. And they were working on their business for about 2 years, and finally were getting things going where they were able to open up. And so they had barely pretty much opened about November of last year. And then obviously, February hits and the pandemic hits them pretty hard. At that point in time, I remember visiting with them, and I remember a genuine concern, a genuine fear of the unknown, genuine just did they start the business at the right time? Given that also too, I mentioned they were trying they had the business for 2 years. They spent almost 8 additional months in their construction than they anticipated. And so they had no revenue and finally when revenue was coming in, it hit hard. They pivoted. They amped up their ability for takeout. They were a brewery that only served on the glass. They started canning and doing growling, and so they're holding water and they're doing quite well. And I'm wishing them all the best throughout this pandemic. That's one story that comes to mind.
That's neat. Appreciate hearing about that. So San Antonio, even though it has diversified its economy greatly in the last 30 years, is still very much a tourism town. Tourism is clearly one of our top 3 or 4 industries and has been hit so hard, obviously not just in San Antonio, throughout the country, throughout the world. But it's something that is an evident reality, a daily reality for all of us. Can you both speak a little bit about what that means to San Antonio and what it looks like right now? I know I'll just share our personal perspective. Embassy Suites is a very big employer for us at Brooks and a very fine hotel. It's the only full service hotel south of downtown. And when Embassy Suites struggles, Brooks struggles. And when they thrive, we thrive. So we have put a whole lot of focus on helping them through this crisis. And they've done a wonderful job, by the way. I think they're uniquely located on the southeast side. Lots of folks, you drive up from South Texas and want to come shopping in San Antonio. That's sort of their first major stop. And a lot of folks stay there. They have some corporate accounts. They've done something really creative and they've opened their doors to the medical staff at Mission Trails Baptist Hospital. So we have a hospital on campus at Brooks. And in particular, when the medical personnel at the hospital are working double shifts and maybe they live in a different part of town and either are too tired or don't want to drive home that night, they're getting to stay at the Embassy Suites Hotel. So that's a win-win. It's a great thing for our community and healthcare. It's also a great thing for the Embassy Suites Hotel. So anyway, that's our little story at Brooks. I'm sure you have perspectives as well if you'd be willing to share them. Michele?
Sure. Well, I know the service and hospitality industry have been hit really hard. But if they can hang on, I know that we'll bounce back. Once there's a vaccine, I know it's going to come back because San Antonio is so wonderful. We're the #1 visited city in Texas and within the top 20 in the United States. So people are going to come back. But meanwhile, I know Visit San Antonio is doing everything they can in terms of marketing campaigns and whatnot to get folks back to San Antonio. Right now, they're even doing a marketing campaign. You can work from anywhere right now. Why don't you work from San Antonio? Come stay in our hotel, sit by the pool. The weather's wonderful, So they're trying everything they can right now to survive and get through this. On the other side of this, a silver lining in all this, it's really an opportunity to upskill and reskill those displaced workers. So, someone that works at a front desk at a hotel, they have customer service experience. They probably have some computer experience. We can align them with a job in the financial services that uses a lot of that same experience. So we're trying to find the opportunities where we can.
Yeah. And, I think we all have stories that are very sad about our favorite restaurant closing or something like that. We think about tourism, we think about, the big downtown hotels and maybe the barges and things of that nature in the Alamo. But it really is a tragedy that the lack of tourism has affected a lot of the small business restaurant owners. And, I think about the ones that have closed, and I know that in 6 months or 9 months, if they can't come back, somebody else is going to fill that spot. I mean, it's just the demand is going to be there. Is that the way you see it, Al?
So people are saying that's a little bit of survival of the fittest, but I am seeing a wherewithal and a resiliency in a lot of the parts of our businesses. what was unfortunate was some of the mandates that were just restrictive in a way that basically ruled you out, or kind of didn't maybe make some more careful considerations on how to scale into hurting you. So you mentioned some of my favorite businesses. There was a scene south of Southtown that they were calling it. And so Frankie Ureste was a bar owner there, was doing quite well. Across the street, he was already leasing the lot to do a food truck park. All that's on pause now because of COVID. And some of the improvements he was already talking about, and we were already trying to connect him with partners, was a streetscape, if you will, on the crosswalk, something that the private sector could help pay for, but kind of a sarape look and make that area, kind of beautify that area. And so, these COVID has affected our community. And when I say community, it's folks like Frank and people that we know that we're doing their best to give back just the same.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think, Michelle, you might have been referring to the program. I saw that Cassandra at Visit San Antonio had an op-ed today in the newspaper promoting, I think, talking about a new promotion for tourism. I don't remember all the details of it now, but I know that, we're positioning ourselves to bounce back as quickly as we can.
I didn't see that particular article, but I know Cassandra and her whole team are doing everything they can to get some eyes on San Antonio and work through some messaging to get folks back to visit our city. It'll happen. It's coming back.
Well, even at Brooks, we've had, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school here, but we've got a couple of restaurants that are coming to the Brooks campus that are going to be big names that people all over the city recognize. And it's going to bring a quality of cuisine option to the South Side that is not always available. And in at least one of those two cases, the pandemic has slowed down the progress of the deal. And we're so excited about having this particular brand and this particular restaurant on Brooks that, we're being as accommodating as we can possibly be. We're absolutely convinced that this deal is going to work in the long run, but we just have to be patient and we have to do what we can to accommodate, the stress that they're under. So, we'll all work together. We'll get this thing done one way or another. Let's go back to another very important topic we touched on earlier, and that is this concept of upskilling. Just so we can be specific, I think a lot of folks out there who have lost their jobs or are concerned about the future are thinking about how they can retrain, how they can make themselves more valuable to employers. So can we get a little deeper into that? Or just maybe more specific, if you're unemployed and you want to retrain, what's the first place you go? What's the first step you take? Yeah. Michelle, maybe you can.
Sure. My suggestion would be to reach out to Workforce Solutions Alamo. They have some wonderful training programs in place right now. And they not only can help you get trained right now, they can assess where you're at and figure out, what your needs are and where you'd like to be. Not only that, they can place you with a specific company that will be hiring. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there's an opportunity to get on-the-job experience. And then the city also has some incentives and some stipends for folks that are willing to get upskilled. They'll pay you $450 a week to go get trained for free. This is a wonderful opportunity. So I would reach out to Workforce Solutions Alamo. And again, I think we had that number up earlier.
Yeah. The website. So Workforce Solutions Alamo. And if you're an employer and looking to upskill some employees, you would go the same place?
Yeah, I would come to Edie, to us first. Let us talk to you and see what your needs are. We'll figure out if it's a good match for you. So contact the San Antonio Economic Development Foundation if you're a company that's hiring and trying to find those workers.
Now, you mentioned Workforce Solutions Alamo, but earlier you mentioned San Antonio Works, which is embedded in your organization at the Economic Development Foundation. What is it that that the San Antonio Works does, and how do they interface with all of these other resources we've been mentioning?
Sure. Well, San Antonio Works is San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. We're the same company, basically. They're under our umbrella. They're basically our workforce development arm. So what they do is they work hard to figure out what the industry needs are, and then they translate that up to the training institutions, whether that is UTSA or Alamo colleges or K through 12 in some instances. And then right now we're working with, SA Works is working with Workforce Solutions Alamo in the program that I just mentioned to match companies with actual employers that are looking for jobs. So it's a very practical program. In addition to that, they have summer internships. They have job shadow days for high school students so that high school student can say, man, I would really like to be a researcher one day. And then they get to go out to SWERI all day and see what an actual researcher does and really see themselves in that position. And it's so impactful. It's really neat.
Or to call on my personal experience, if you want to fix heavy equipment at Holt Caterpillar.
Exactly. Good example.
Yeah, I was actually at Holt Cat when we started SA Works, and Peter John Holt, well, I think was the first chairman of that group. And there is a lot of focus. So there's a extensive training program at Holt Cat if you want to be a technician and work on heavy equipment. So yeah, that's just another example, I think, of what you're talking about. Al, you were going to say something?
No, and also, I know we're short on time, but obviously, just Alamo colleges themselves as well. If you're, employer or someone looking to get more upskills and education, with respect to recovery and what that looks like and opportunities, what we've been saying on the South Side at the Chamber advocating for is the need to keep our workforce from the South in the South. And so what we're seeing, and we're hoping to keep changing that trend, was you see close to 120,000 Southsiders leave the South Side for employment. And what we discuss often in the service industry, often in downtown, and you see about close to, I think 70,000 folks come to the South Side to work from the North Side. And so, to keep the economic engine going, and the whole mission at Brooks is live, work, play. We need to make sure that we somehow keep folks living here too. And so I think, some of those stats right now are currently at that decent income level. We only have about close to 30,000 that are living, working, and playing. And so, we need to keep that going and keep that working.
Well, you mentioned live, work, play, and there's no better place to live, work, play than Brooks.
Yes.
We're doing our part to keep people housed on the South Side as well. As you know, Al, we've got 3 great apartment buildings on the Brooks campus. We've got single family homes, Heritage Oaks. We've got a couple of other housing projects in the pipeline. And Connie, whose face just popped up on the screen now, spent several years working and living at Brooks. So she can speak firsthand about, what that's like. But we're all pulling in the same direction there. I've got sons in their 20s, and I've encouraged them as they've been making decisions about housing to look at the South Side. So I think it's a great opportunity. So Connie, looks like we maybe are in wrap-up mode, and perhaps I should let Michele and Al make any sort of final statements that they would like to make. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's do that then. So, it's sort of like a presidential debate, you guys. You always, at the very end, get to make your closing statement. So this is your opportunity to wax as eloquent as you would like. And I'll let Michele go first.
Ladies first.
Again, thank you, Brooks, for allowing EDF to represent here. And we always appreciate your partnership. So thank you so much. Like it was mentioned earlier, small businesses are the backbone of our community. And so they're so important. But I really feel like with this pandemic, there's a lot of silver linings. So with upskilling and getting folks back to work. I think we're going to come out of this better on the other side, more resilient than ever. And like I said at the beginning, San Antonio is scrappy and resilient, and I think we're going to do great.
Thank you. Al?
Pleasure to be here with you all tonight. Thank you to the audience for joining us. I especially want to thank Brooks for everything they do for our Chamber of Commerce. We are proud tenants, and I'm proud to say that I work on Brooks and pretty much do all my shopping at Brooks as well. And so what I've been encouraged is it's been busy on campus. You still see cars frequenting the commons area, the city-based shopping, whether it was West or the other parcel. So I'm seeing traffic, I'm seeing life, I'm seeing activity, and I think we're going to be okay. Where those small businesses have been very drastically affected, there was a mention of Southside First. That is under our umbrella of our foundation. We very deliberately sought out to have an equivalent of Westside Development Corporation and Sage on the South Side. And so that served as a tool to help folks get the grants through the county and the city. And so, our chamber leadership, and I encourage you to get involved if you're a business. Our chamber leadership has taken our issues deadly seriously. We analyze data very seriously, and I would encourage you to get involved and speak your mind on issues that you care about as well. Together, we're going to get through this.
Well, thanks for mentioning Southside First, Al. When I was at one of the great Southside employers, Whole Cat, I was involved with Southside First for a while, and you guys are doing great work there. So, Connie, I know you're going to wrap this thing up, but before I hand it back over to you, I just want to thank our panelists for being here tonight. Really appreciate so much the work of the Economic Development Foundation. Michele and I were chatting before we got started that I have several good friends that I worked with in a prior life who are at the Economic Development Foundation. They're doing a great job. And Al, always loved the South Chamber. Spend a lot of time with the South Chamber, and you guys are full of energy, and you're doing great things for the South Side. So thank you both.
I miss seeing you at events, man.
Thank you so much. Okay, Connie, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate your leadership. Again, thank you to Michele and Al. We definitely appreciate your partnership and your ongoing partnership. And so we appreciate y'all taking the time to be with us and enlightening us on what could be some very confusing topics for many. And so if you still have any questions, we're going to prop up those resources one more time for you. And so if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of these entities, or they probably can connect you with additional entities if you have those questions. If you have a question, the likelihood is somebody else also has that question, so do not hesitate to reach out. And so we hope you enjoyed our final live stream event of our Ask Brooks series. If you were not able to get any of your questions answered, again, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or any of our team members at Brooks. We'd be happy to get in touch with you all. Thank you so much for watching our Ask Brooks series regarding small businesses. We hope to see you soon. Stay healthy, friends.